Hi everybody, welcome to another video. So today we're having a look at the Anest Iwata Kiwami4. That's the standard Kiwami4 with the BA4J cap, effectively equivalent to W400 Balearia. And we're looking at the Kiwami4, but the WBX version, which is again equivalent to the WBX version of the W400. So these two guns spray the same as the W400s. They're a bit lighter. They feel better in the hand. Styling's definitely better. Not that the old one was odd, but it just looks a bit more modern. These look a bit more modern. But I wanted to see the difference between the two, and quite a few people asked me the difference between the WBX, the WB, etc, etc. So I've done a video which I'll put a link in the description, and that's basically showing you the spray up patterns of all the guns and going through the physical differences so that you can see it in the camera what's actually different about these guns. This is looking at the different ways they spray. So temperature we did this video at was 19 degrees Celsius, so we didn't really need to use any heat. I'm using Upol 2080 clear coat, which is quite it's a high solids clear coat, but it doesn't run out particularly well. Now this will suit the BA4J cap, the standard Kiwami4, more than the WBX. The WBX definitely atomizes finer. You'll see the difference between the two patterns. The BA4J cap, or I'll just say Kiwami4 and WBX, that's the easiest way. The Kiwami4 puts out more fluid. They're both 1.3, so they're both the same tip size, but because the WBX has got a split tip, it does atomize finer, and you do notice that, but it also slows the gun down. I have no idea why. It also slows the gun down. The WBX actually uses quite a bit more air. I think Iwata quote 270 litres for the standard Kiwami4, and for the WBX they quote 370 litres, so that's about 9 CFM for the standard version and about 12 and a half CFM for the WBX. So the WBX uses quite a bit of air, about the same as a WS400. Quite big holes in the air cup, so it does actually flow quite a lot of air. What you'll notice between these two is that the WBX, I made a note, I make notes when I do these videos, and the two guns used 210 milliliters for the BA4J, so the standard Kiwami4, and the WBX used 190 milliliters to do exactly the same thing. So you can see that the material saving is there with the WBX, even with the Upol clear that needs to go on. You need to put quite a lot of it on to get it to flow out, otherwise it just ends up quite dry. Which is why I was saying the Upol clear coat will suit the standard Kiwami4 better than the WBX, because the WBX does benefit from a better quality clear coat because it can atomize so fine and lay it on very fine. You get a nice thin coat of clear which actually looks really good. With the Upol stuff, as I say, you do have to put it on, so it tends to sometimes look a little bit cheesy. You'll see the results at the end. We put the two panels together, and you know, I try and run the camera over at a reasonable speed so that you can get an idea of, you know, which one performs better. But if you'll take my eyes, and it is better to have your eyes rather than the camera, the WBX definitely performs better. And that leads me on to the next reason for the video, really. This is an older video. I did this last year sometime. I've actually got a new camera now, which is better, but hopefully this one isn't too bad for most of the actual onboard spraying shots. But what you'll notice is that the standard Kiwami4 has gone up quite a bit in price. The price seems to have changed. I've also seen a few people in the UK selling off the old W400 Balearia. So I'm wondering, now I've no inside information here, but I'm wondering whether we're being queued up for a complete rollout of the Kiwami4 worldwide. That would be my thoughts, because I know they're available in Africa now. In Africa you can get them, certainly South Africa Africa you can buy them. They've been available in Asia for quite a while, so I wouldn't mind betting that within the next year or so you'll see these things all over the place. All over the place. But the price of the standard Kiwami4 has definitely gone up. It used to be really good value for money. Now it is good value for money, but it brings it into the competitive price range of quite a few other guns. I think you'll pay now about £220 just for the gun, with a pot about 280 GB pounds, which is about what, about 360 US dollars, something like that, about 330 euros, something like that. So they are actually knocking up in price. They still represent really good value for money. Sorry, I'm trying to talk fast because I know this video is not particularly long, but they still represent really good value for money. But what it does do is it brings it into close competition now with the WB and the WBX. I've got all three guns. I've got the WB versions, I've got the WBX version. Again, if you look in the video, it will explain the differences, the physical differences as regards the tips, etc. But it brings it into real close competition with the WBX. So then you would have to ask yourself, or I would ask myself anyway, being a fairly logical, well, I like to think of a fairly logical, I'm a fairly logical thinking person. Is the WBX worth the extra money? And providing you've got the air supply, because one of the good things about the standard version is that it will allow you to use a reasonable sized compressor at home. If you've got, say, a 50 litre 14 CFM compressor or a 100 litre 14 CFM compressor, it will easily keep up with this gun. So you'll be able to spray a whole car if you want to without any real problems. Whereas the WBX would still tax that compressor, because I know they're rated at 14 CFM. The free air delivery is probably about 10 and a half, something like that. So you would need more than that to keep up with the WBX. But if that's not a limiting factor for you, and you can see the difference in pattern there, it's a much more heavier pattern than the WBX. The pattern is fine on both of them, so that's not a problem at all. What you'll find with the WBX, as I think I've said, but I'll say it again just to emphasise it, it's a bit slower, but it does atomise finer, so it'll save you material, but it will also give you a flatter finish if that's what you want. Both of them are capable of really good flat finishes anyway, but you will notice a slight difference, and as I say again, particularly if you use a good quality clear coat or a better quality clear coat, that the WBX will reward you really well. So as I say, looking at the prices of these two, I would say if you can possibly afford it now, go for the WBX or the WB. The WB actually sprays slightly slower than the WBX, mainly because it uses a slightly lower pressure. It uses slightly more air again than the WBX, believe it or not, even though it runs at a lower pressure. It's only slightly lower pressure. I run both of these at 2 bar. It's the recommended pressure, and it's the pressure I use them at, and they produce brilliant finishes, don't matter what I'm putting through these. If I use them for base coat, I normally knock that down to about 1.4 bar, which is about 25, 26 psi, 29 psi for the clear coat, and that's what was used in this video. Both guns were run full open, so full fluid, full fan at 2 bar or 29 psi. And I think you'll agree, apart from being a lovely colour, which it certainly is, I think you'll agree that it really produces good results. And as I say, if you possibly can, go put the extra money into the WBX, because it will reward you really well. But then, you know, if you're looking at WBX with a cup, you're starting to look at things like the DeVille Bis or the Techna GTI Pro Light, and it definitely holds its own against them. I'm a firm... I really like the GTI Pro Light, but I think the WBX would pip it, no matter what cap is on it. Certainly for clear coat anyway. For base coat, yeah, there's not much in it really. I mean, you're comparing the WBX is really good, but also the Tecna with the TE10 is really good as well. So I don't think you're going to gain much, but certainly with clear coat, you do actually gain a little bit with that split tip, even the expense of speed. Although if you're comparing that, you'd probably compare that to the T110, which I know isn't available in quite a few countries. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening to my rambling as always. Cheers. Bye bye.